Hello, everybody. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. And I gotta be honest, I'm surprised it took me long enough to get around to talking about this movie. I mean, it is, um, with the exception of George Romero's Martin, this is definitely up there as my ultimate, favorite vampire movie of all time. And I'm surprised I haven't talked about it yet. And we're going to talk about Salem's Lot, the ultimate in terror. And this is the 1979 TV miniseries. I know I'm sure you've heard other people talk about this miniseries before, and I know I just did a Stephen King video here a few days ago when I talked about The Shining, but I don't know why. I really wanted to talk about this movie, and this is easily one of the best vampire movies for my money that you will ever see. Now, I mean, that's saying a lot because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do love a lot of the 80s vampire movies. I love The Lost Boys. I watched that, you could ask my brother. He'd tell you, I watched that movie over and over and over again. There was a period of time I watched it all the time. That's why I don't watch it now. It's not that I don't like the movie. It's just I'm burned out on it. But I do have it. I have the whole trilogy of the Lost Boys movies on Blu-ray. I have all three of them. I just, like I said, just kind of, I've watched it so many times I burned myself out on it. And, of course, Fright Night. Yes, I love Fright Night, and it's like I'm a little disappointed, because I did hear about the Blu-ray that's supposed to be coming out. I believe it's February, and Sony's putting out a Blu-ray, but unfortunately, it's going to be bare bones. So, but at least if you want to get the movie in high def, you'd be able to do that. But anyway, though, I mean, yes, I do love those movies, but yeah, this one here is definitely one of my favorite movies. It's easily one of the scariest. I remember watching this as a little kid. It scared me. It scared everybody in my family, pretty much. My mother, it creeped her out so bad that, especially the part where Jeffrey Lewis's character comes back as a vampire and just the way he looks and everything else. They look. That's the thing. I mean, the vampires in this movie. I mean, of course, if you know anything about this movie, the Barlow character, basically, and Tobe Hooper, freely admitted that he was basically modeled after the Nosferatu vampire because he thought that was the scariest looking vampire. But yeah, but I mean, the vampires in this movie, they look more like demons or something. Just, that's one of the things. I'll get to that in just a minute. But, and then I can remember like my brother Ronnie, who passed away from leukemia here a few years ago. As a matter of fact, yeah, it was over 10 years ago. And, he was like, he liked the movie, but just the problem was he couldn't watch this movie. It was so scary to him. And I mean, he was a grown man too. He's older than I was, he's old, he was my older brother. And this movie scared, I could watch it. He couldn't, it scared him too bad. There were times like if I started putting, if I put the movie on to watch, if he came in, he saw I was watching it, he would almost beg me. Either he would beg me to fast forward through the really scary parts, or he would just get up and leave the room. And then, I'd sit there and watch it, and then, a few minutes later, I could hear him call outside, "It's okay to come in again. Is the scary part's over?" So, I mean, that movie scared him pretty good. And my brother Bill, he admits this movie is, really frightening and stuff like that. And yeah, it scared me too when I first saw it. It creeped me out as a little kid, seeing the little vampire kids floating up to the window and everything else, scratching on the window. "Let me in, Danny. Open the window, Danny." Just so creepy. But yeah, I mean, I've heard, some people review this movie and say it's not all that great and everything else. But okay, first of all, if you're gonna watch this movie, there was at one point a narrowed down 2 hour version, which, for some people, if you don't like, that's the thing. This movie's about 3 hours long. So if you don't like the idea of sitting through a 3 hour vampire movie, then yeah, you probably, if you could ever find the VHS tape, it says on there Salem's Lot, the movie, but that's a chopped down 2 hour version where a lot of stuff is taken out. But this here, the reason why it's about 3 hours long is, you're trying to build up these characters and try to build up the story, create atmosphere, create suspense, create tension, which Tobe Hooper does a brilliant job of this. And I'm sorry if I really am. I know I'm kind of sound like I'm all over the place with it, but just just so many things are rushing into my mind when I talk about this movie. I should have scripted this out, but the story, the movie stars David Soul as Ben Mears and James Mason, and this has a good cast in it. Lance Kerwin, Bonnie Bedelia, what's his name? Oh God, Jeffrey Lewis. So many good name actors. Marie Windsor. What the hell is his name? From House on Haunted Hill. Oh gosh, what was his name? Oh, anyway, yeah, this movie has a lot of good actors in it. Fred Willard is in it, and everything else. George DeZunza is in this, So yeah, so Alicia Cook Jr. That's who I was thinking of. Alicia Cook Jr. He's in this movie, so yeah, I mean you got a good cast in this movie, and the story starts off. You have David Soul. He plays the character Ben Mears. He comes into the town of Salem's Lot, and you learn as the movie goes on. He explains to people that he lived there before, and now of course, it's a Stephen King movie, so he makes a living as a writer. But he's come back to Salem's Lot because the town always always had an attraction to him. A very bizarre one, and so he wanted to come back and write a book about it, and his main focus is this house on the hill called the Marson House, which you find out if you ever see like any behind the scenes photos and stuff like that. It was just a fake front that was built onto just a little house on a hill in California. But so and he talks about this very scary experience that he had, that he went into this house on a dare, and he saw this man hanging by his neck, and said he opened his eyes and looked at him, and he ran, and it scared him so bad, and just there's something about that house that attracts him. And at first he's finding out he wants to see if he can maybe rent or buy the house, and Fred Willard plays the real estate agent, tells him no, you can't buy the house, somebody's already moved in there. And it turns out James Mason is the man who moved into the house, and his name is Stryker, and he's everybody keeps asking him because he mentioned that there's a Mr. Barlow who is coming to town, and of course turns out Mr. Barlow is this character right here, the vampire there. So everybody's like, "Where's Mr. Barlow?" Everybody's waiting for Mr. Barlow, and James Mason keeps telling him, "Oh, Mr. Barlow is well worth the wait, and just he'll be here and all this, yeah, he'll be here, and you're gonna love meeting him and all this kind of stuff." And so Jeffrey Lewis and another character, they get George DeZunza plays a truck driver, but he gets a job to go pick up this crate for James Mason, and he turns over Jeffrey Lewis and this other guy, and so they go and pick it up, because he tells you go pick this up for me, deliver it to this house, I'll pay you $50. And so they go pick up this crate and everything, and they're trying to get this crate to this house. It's scaring the hell out of them because they're all like, this crate is unnaturally cold, and they put it in the back of this truck, and it's like as they're driving, it's like the crate is like moving around in the back and all this other kind of stuff, and it's creeping them out. So they finally get to the house, and so they get it to the basement, and at one point he's like, let's open it, and Jeffrey's, no, let's just get out of here and all this stuff. And so and then they're in this house. It's supposed to be empty. They're hearing like footsteps and people coming in the door and all this other kind of stuff. And so they get out and everything else. And it turns out that the crate is actually the vampire. He's come there, and you find out that James Mason's character, Mr. Stryker, is actually kind of like the caretaker of the vampire. He goes out to get victims to bring to the vampire to drink their blood and stuff like that. And of course, you got like other storylines going on where you got like David Soul, his character falls in love with Bonnie Bedelia's character, and she had a boyfriend, and he wants her for himself, and she's telling him no, she wants to be with David Soul's character, and so they're fighting over her and stuff like that. Then you got like the father of Bonnie Bedelia. I think it's Ed Flanders plays him, not Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, but Ed Flanders, the character actor. I think that's who it was. Anyway, and so it's like eventually like him and David Soul, they both team up to fight the vampires and stuff like that. And there's like really good scary scenes in this. The I'm not gonna lie though, I mean this movie does, it's 3 hours long. So the beginning there is quite a bit of build up. There's setting up the story, getting things in motion, and all this other kind of stuff, character development, and also too, you do have a wide variety of characters in this. This one of the reasons why Tobe Hooper, admitted that he was glad that they turned it into a TV miniseries because he felt that, this movie really needed that miniseries format to try to put as much of the characterization and stuff like that into the book or into the movie as possible. And so and then the second part of the movie is really where things start to pick up and the vampires, really start coming out. And the vampires are, easily the scariest looking vampires, And the thing is like Stephen King said when he wrote the book that, he wanted to write a vampire story that was genuinely scary. He didn't want anything that was sexual because he's like, there are so many sexual vampire movies and vampire books and stuff. I didn't want to tell a vampire story that brought up the sexual aspect of it. I didn't want to bring up the gore aspect of it. He's like, I wanted to try to write a vampire book that was genuinely frightening and very, very scary. And it must have been because, I mean, I read the book and I enjoyed it very much. But my mother, I remember her telling me a story that when I was real little, she told me a story about, when she bought the book and she read it and the book scared her so bad, she took it outside, just kind of like threw it out because, the book scared her so bad she didn't even want it in the house, you know. So it did. It scared the hell out of her. It scared her pretty good. But anyway, and the movie did too. The movie really, scared her. It scared me too. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this, oh man, I don't remember. I mean, the miniseries came out in '79, but I know it was later on when I saw it. But even still, as a little kid, it freaked the hell out of me. And but all over the years, this has just become, easily like I said, it's neck and neck between this and George Romero's Martin. It's between these two, which is my favorite vampire movie of all time. And I love this movie to death. I really do. It's such a good movie. And unfortunately, the only bonus features we were able to get on here, well, not unfortunately, really. I mean, we got a feature length audio commentary by director Tobe Hooper, so I mean that was great to have. It was cool that he talked about this and the international theatrical trailer. And I mean, unfortunately, by the time they got around to this, there was no way that they could really do bonus features not for this. So many of the cast and crew had moved on or passed away or whatever. So I mean, there just wasn't really much you could do with it. But still, it's great to have this, and it actually looks pretty good on Blu-ray. I wasn't sure how it was going to look. It looks pretty good. They did a good job cleaning it up for high definition transfer. It does look good, and but the thing is, and I've watched some reviews here lately. I watched like Dark Corner's review of Life Force, as well as Brandon Tenold's interview, or not interview, but review of Life Force and stuff like that. And one thing that you got to admit about Tobe Hooper, and they admitted it on the Life Force video, and I agree with them. They talked about how Life Force really, even though Life Force wasn't the perfect movie of all time, it had some little issues wrong with it and stuff like that. But ultimately, it was a really good, entertaining, well made movie. And one could be said for. I mean, I think this movie's flawless. I do. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But I'm sure there are people out there who, as far as they're concerned, this movie does need some touch-up work done on it. But I think this movie is brilliant just the way it is. But one thing, I mean, you could tell, and a lot of people have mentioned this over the years, that, Tobe Hooper really put a lot of work and effort into making this really good, and it comes off better as, for a 70s TV movie, it really holds up and easily could have. That's why they turned around and took the movie and they trimmed down an hour out of it and turned it into a 2-hour movie so they could put it in theaters because Tobe Hooper did such a great job directing it and, did such a great job, him and his crew and his cinematographer and everybody, set designers, art directors, everybody on this movie did such a great job putting this film together that they were actually able to trim an hour off of it and release it as a theatrical movie overseas. And you know, Tobe Hooper did go on to say he loved the book and he loved King's writing and really wanted to do the best job. It shows. I mean, that's the thing. You know, I mean, you could tell like when somebody does an adaptation of a book and they don't care. I mean, it shows. But it's like here. I mean, it's like, you know, King or Tobe Hooper really wanted to do a good job, and he did. He made a really good movie. He gets great performances out of everybody in this movie. You know, David Soul does great. James Mason is, I mean, when James Mason's on screen, I mean, dear God, you can't help but watch the guy. I mean, he's so good. Everybody in this movie works. You know, Jeffrey Lewis, he's not in the movie, but like Rob Zombie would say, Jeffrey Lewis, he may not got a lot to do, but he is a scene stealer in this movie. He truly is. And everybody just works in this movie. This movie is so good. Marie Windsor is awesome. Alicia Cook Jr., everybody in this movie works, you know, so. But yeah, I mean, this to me is easily, I mean, now you can find this movie in the 788 Blu-ray bin at Walmart. And if you haven't gotten this movie and you want a really good, scary vampire movie, seriously, you need this. You know, add this to your collection. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. I mean, I think this movie is just brilliant. You know, even if it is 3 hours long, it's worth it. It truly is. I just think that this movie is a masterpiece to me. That's probably what I'm gonna say in the title. This movie is a masterpiece. But anyway, though, just you know, the set design, the atmosphere, the music score. Does it say on here? No, it doesn't say who did the music. I forgot who did the music. Anyway, though, just yeah, just the atmosphere, the performances, the makeup. I mean, easily like some of the scariest looking vampires I've ever seen in any movie. And honestly, I haven't seen too many other scary looking ones since. Not that look as scary as these do, but so anyway, so yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. I've gone on about this long enough, but oh, it truly is. It's such a great movie. Just the scene in the morgue alone, where David Soul is sitting there, and you know, Ed Flanders goes and tells him, "I got to make a phone call, make sure my family at home is okay." So he leaves the room, and David Soul, you know, he's sitting there, and the dead body is on the table, wrapped up in a sheet. So he takes two tongue depressors and tapes them together, and he starts saying the Lord's Prayer, or not the Lord's Prayer, but Psalm 23. And a little bit, you know, you can start seeing like the twitching under the sheet and stuff like that, and it's starting to move and everything else, and you know, slowly the vampire starts coming to life and everything else. And Danny, where are you, Danny, darling? And all this kind of stuff. Easily one of the so good, so scary, so well done. Just the vampire makeup, it all works. So yeah, just so they're one of the last truly great gothic vampire films. I agree, and I do. I just think this movie is so brilliant. I really do. Easily one of my, if not my favorite vampire movie of all time, you know, definitely one of. So, number 2 with a bullet, at least. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Yeah, Salem's Lot, I can't push this movie enough. Like I said, if you want a scary vampire movie to put into your, you know, vampire movie collection, and you don't have this, you come across this, like I said, you can find it like the 788 bin at Walmart. If you find it, get it. And, you know, don't be afraid of the 3-hour running time. It's good. It takes a little build up, but it pays off. So I don't know. One day I'll maybe talk about the remake with Rob Lowe, but for right now, I just want to talk about this one. So anyway, that's going to do it. Yeah, Salem's Lot, love it. Can't recommend it enough. If anybody sat through this entire video, I can't thank you enough for doing it. I truly appreciate you for doing it. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and if you love Salem's Lot as much as I do, please like and subscribe, and you know, I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.